this year to last year, what do you notice in changes in the American people and what you see as far as not just the liberty movement, but people becoming aware of this private banking cartel?
I'll tell you what, this year to last year, we're building a critical mass. The critical mass is the number of people you need to get something done politically. There were 3 million people, a couple million in Washington, another million around the country that came out on the 4th of July for the Tea Parties. There are thousands and thousands of people today coming out in front of every single Federal Reserve branch in the country. In addition to that, Ron Paul has lined up 315, I believe, representatives to vote for his bill to audit the Federal Reserve. That didn't happen because 315 congressmen got illuminated and said, yeah, this is a great idea, and they read his research and stuff. No, they were pressured by individuals and groups that care about liberty. So that's what's happening this year. There's enough support publicly to audit the Federal Reserve. Whether it happens or not, you got to keep the pressure on, folks. You got to keep the pressure on. Keep the eyes on the prize. Just like I have my Red Sox cap on, right? All of you from New England, right? Remember the curse? Remember how many times we came close and it was snatched from us? We got to keep the pressure on our congressmen, folks, because until it happens, I'm not going to believe it. Until the last catch of the last game of the World Series, I'm not going to believe this is happening, but it's a great start, Daniel.
Excellent. Now, I'm good with the mic. Now, a couple things. By the way, I'm Thomas Moore. I wanted to invite,
Tom Moore. They call me Three-Cornered Tom. Put this hat back on.
There you go. Now, can I ask, you did a good thing on that, but today's an important day, right? Today's November 22nd. Why,
That's right.
Why this day in history? Why are we here? Not just, the Fed, when I say not just, we need to realize that the private banking cartel is not in the best interest of the American people, okay, and the citizens of the United States, let alone the citizens of the world. But why is today such an important day? Why do you think they chose today to be here for a Audit the Fed and the Fed rally?
All right. I don't know, but I'll tell you what this day means to me. This is the day that they murdered John Fitzgerald Kennedy in Dallas, Texas, 46 years ago today, November 22nd. And this right here is a 1963.
Hold on, ready? I'll hold it.
Yep.
You go ahead and talk, because I got the.
This is what's called a United States note. It's issued directly from the Treasury. It's a fiat currency, just like the Federal Reserve note. The difference is the Fed note carries a debt to the private European bankers of the Federal Reserve. This note does not.
Issued in 1963 with Executive Order 11,110?
That is right. And I want to say something about that. It's also called a greenback. It goes back to Lincoln when he was mired in the Civil War, and the international bankers were forcing him to pay the super high interest on their loans in order to keep our country whole. What Lincoln decided to do to get around them was to issue this greenback, and this is actually, believe it or not, Kennedy reissued the Lincoln greenback. They periodically would be reissued because paper doesn't last forever. It has to be reissued. So that's what Kennedy was doing. He was reissuing something that Lincoln had done before him. And isn't it funny, they were both publicly executed with a bullet in the head.
It's interesting, too, that when Kennedy, with his executive order, created United States notes based on the $4.6 billion of silver that the United States held at the time. So there was a limit on how many notes he created, once again, based on the silver that was available, that we had.
Point.
Yeah. And once in 1963, they not only printed and issued 1s, 2s, and 5s, but they had already printed the 10s and 20s. And it's rather interesting. After Kennedy's assassinated, first thing that Johnson does is say, hey, don't put those 10s and 20s out there.
That's right.
Because
no other
the people
president
could compare apples and oranges. Yep. We could have a private banking cartel that charges your children interest for every piece of currency created, or we could have currency that works for the people. We're back to Abraham Lincoln.
That's right. Another thing is, another analogy I like to use, in 1963, you could go and buy a gallon of gas for a quarter. Today, that same quarter, that same silver quarter, will buy you a gallon of gas. That's what sound money does for you.
You are correct. I was just at a coin dealer yesterday, and junk silver, they call it. We used to have 90% silver coinage. 3 dimes, about 30 cents. That's right. In the 60s, you could buy a gallon of gas for less than 30 cents, and today, each dime is worth $1 each. That's $3. You can still buy a gallon of gas today in the United States if you get $3. And tell you what, if you save those dimes, you can still buy the gas. But if you save the paper, you're hosed. And these are the clowns who devalue your paper and enslave your children. They're known as the Federal Reserve System. They're not federal. They have no reserves. And as far as the system goes, I call it slavery. It's like Babylonian to me. I was windy. You were getting windy. I couldn't help it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just want to say, everybody, let's keep the pressure on. Let's keep calling your representatives, and let's bring this to a victory, an audit of the Federal Reserve. Thank you so much, Daniel.